Okay, beautiful people of YouTube, we're back. 1089. Let me stop this. Anyways, sorry for the horrible lighting or whatever, but we're back, chapter 1089, One Piece. I've read the spoilers. I did a live stream about that. That wasn't that long. This one's probably not going to be crazy long as well. Also, we're going to be watching the Loki trailer after we go over the chapter a little bit. And yeah, so if you tune into this live stream, we got a very, very jam-packed live stream today, and let's get into it. Alright. 1089, One Piece, shonen cover. We get everybody, all the shonen characters with Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and Chopper up front. Wonder why Chopper's up front, but he's a fan favorite, so I guess. 1089 Under Siege, and we have, who is that? A cow serves Nami. Oh, should have known that was Nami. A cow serves Nami a letter. A late night mug serves Nami a late night mug of warm milk while she works on her sea charts. The stars outside shine almost as beautiful as you, Nami-san. Would you like to come watch them with me? Thank you, but I saw them earlier, Nami. So maybe the cow's supposed to represent Sanji, or just bringing a letter from Sanji, but that's funny. Ichiro Oda. Alright, East Blue Village, Fuchsia Village. Oh wow. Did you hear about Garp-san missing in action on Pirate Island? What's that mean? Doesn't say dead, right? News races around the world. There's no need to worry about him. He's a living legend. Yeah, the mayor's right. You think this is funny? What? Sorry, I didn't realize it was you. Oh, I guess it was a baby. I guess we're all a little on edge with Garp-san. The baby even started to recognize Luffy's face from all the photos. You really love seeing Big Bro Luffy, don't you? Garp, Luffy, what are you doing? It's cool to see. I forgot her name, but the bandit captain lady, she's upset about what's happening. Like, it just shows how much she actually cares about them. East Blue, wow, earthquake. There's an earthquake. South Blue, oh, it's a tsunami. Also, oh, so this is the, I guess this is the aftermath of them blowing up Lucia Island. I would say this would probably be more so like what the seas are doing to like the oceans and the different pressure. Now that there's like a different pressure of ocean and things like that. No earthquake in record history. recorded history. West Blue matched the one fleet on that day. What? In recorded history, matched the one felt on that day. I said fleet. I'm an idiot. North Blue. It's a big one. It's caused untold destruction across the entire world. So the destruction of Lucia pretty much caused an earthquake across the world. All right. Grand Line. Oh, Laboon, that's what's up. Okay, we're really getting to see everybody in this chapter. That is crazy. I've actually been talking about this for a while. I was like, we haven't even seen people like from back in the day in a long time. No one could determine the epicenter. So the significance of this geological event went unnoticed. What the hell is happening on Unbeknownst to the people. I don't know. I guess it's supposed to be unknown. Unbeknownst. Okay. I've never seen that written out. I'm not even gonna lie. Unbeknownst to the people, to get to the hilltop, a kingdom known as Lucia was erased from the map 6 days prior. We've reached the spot where the kingdom was. There's no traces of. Okay. Oh, so there's a ship right there. There's a ship right here. Okay, anyways, let's finish this. There's no traces left, just a massive hole. It's like a circular waterfall in the middle of the sea. We can't sail any closer to be but it doesn't look like the whole will collapse. Wow. In on itself. The ensuing earthquakes caused by global sea levels to rise by approximately 1 meter. By approximately 1 meter. Many of the world's shores that is happening. The tide has never gotten this high before. It will recede eventually, won't it? We're lost beneath the waves. How are we meant to run on the beaches now? They're upset they can't run on the beaches. Alright, so all like land, like certain islands are being submerged. So islands were submerged entirely. Everything flooded. We can't stay here. There's a shark in my house. That's crazy. Reports of flooding islands are still coming in. So this is causing like drastic calamities across the One Piece world. This is like, you know what I mean? And it's not even saying that it's killing people yet, but we have no other, choice but to believe that it's most likely killing a few people. We're just not, Oda's probably just not gonna say it yet. It shouldn't be high tide yet. I'm sure to get a big catch on a day like this. You numbskull, going fishing now would be suicide. That's crazy. Somebody's just stop. I feel him. He's trying to make his money. He's like, yo, I can catch a couple big ones today. Shoot. Pause. New World Egghead, the island of the future. Sea level rising worldwide. Yes, sir, we're at a loss. A massive force is surrounding the island. Possessing more than enough firepower to put a buster call to shame. Wow. That's crazy. The fleet is comprised of over 100 ships of various size and class. There are 20 great warships among them. It's a mecha monster. Yeah, mecha monster. That's nuts. And a total of 3,000 Marines. Oh, 30,000 Marines. Yo, we ain't worried about that. We ain't worried about that. Hey, Unc, didn't I just tell you not to lay a hand on the weaponized sea beast? This operation is being spearheaded by 9 Navy HQ Vice Admirals and Admiral Kizaru. You aren't making this easy for me, Sentomaru. Can't you just come on out and surrender? Fat chance will be ready if you try something like that again, Unc. Navy Admiral Kizaru Bosalino. Oh my, I'm absolutely terrified. Grandpa Punk based the Pacifista lasers off of the research he did on your power. That's so cool. I can't believe you're here to kill him. So tomorrow no one can protect him from his own choice to research the Void Century. I am just a cog in the machine. That's crazy. He's right. Like, he's just doing his job. Vegapunk knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing was wrong in the eyes of the government, and not only that, the people he was working for legitimately. He was like, okay, you can research whatever you want, make whatever you want, just make us some weapons, and just do not research this one thing. And it's a widely known thing not to do that. So you did it, you gotta pay the price. And I respect Sentomaru, because like Sentomaru's like, okay, listen, I have more, you know what I mean, I have more stakes in what Uncle Punk is doing than whatever this Navy crap is. So we're gonna live and die by Unc right now. Anyway, this fight is exactly in our best interest. Everything we break is a net loss for us. At this point, I think it's fair to assume that Rob Lucci and the others failed to complete their assassination mission. I don't know why that's like a tongue twister. Thanks to the Straw Hats. Inside a certain warship, make sure no one knows I am here. Yes, sir. The Straw Hat pirates storm Egghead to take Vegapunk hostage. This is a good article. It's one of Morgan's. And then we see 5 Elder Planet, Warrior God of Defense, Science, J. Garcia, Saturn. I don't know why I can't say words today. Like, okay. Where was I? And what is the reality of the situation, sir? Have yet Sir, we have yet to receive any word from Cypher Pole Zero on whether their mission was a success. However, we can draw our own conclusion based on Sentomaru's resistance. Which is true. He's like, yo, listen, Punk's not going nowhere. Like, if he ain't leaving with y'all, he ain't dying for y'all. Anyways, it can be safely assumed that Dr. Vegapunk and his 6 satellites are up in the lab stratum, along with 4 Cypher assigned to protect them. Cypher, and they give the diagram with all 6 and then the 4, whatever. And it seems likely that they have joined forces with Emperor Straw Hat. His crew has 10 members. Our advanced guard includes 3 members of CP0, Rob Lucci, Kaku, and Stutzy. Stutzy's a traitor, so which they don't know yet because you know what I mean, they haven't had any communication with them. There are also a number of other Cypher Pro agents, Fabro Stratum, Statum, whatever. I'm not even going to be saying those words. I'm not saying those anymore, but whatever. But it seems like they've been created by the Fabro Stadium by Sentomaru and his Battalion of Mark III Pacifista. As the Frontier Dome is currently at 100%, we can be certain that nobody can get in or out of the state of the lab. Unfortunately, we have no way of knowing what has transpired on the interior of the dome in the last day or so. So they've been up there for probably 2 days, maybe even 3. Where have the researches and works of Vegapunk on? They evacuated yesterday, but we have tracked and confirmed the current position of their ship. And what would we do if they got away? They might know something. Sink them immediately. Yes, sir. That's nuts. That's nuts. All the people that they pretty much got out of there earlier, I guess they're not people. I don't know if they're people or robots, but the ones that were pretty much his workers, got him out of there, and they're about to sink him if they catch up to him. Saint Saturn, your warship is, there is one more thing. The Button Jewelry Bonnie was reported to be on the island too. Oh, Kuma's daughter? Well, we no longer have any use for her. But given that she is just a little girl, you can leave her be. Understood. She's just a little girl? She's just a little girl? Is that confirming that she's a child? Because of her devil fruit, she can change her age. Sorry guys, I got does that mean I think we just confirmed Jewelry Bonnie is a child. Probably yeah. Kuzaru-san, we picked up a transmission from Egghead. It appears to be a long-range call. Ring, battle. The Holy Land of Marie Joie. This is Marie Joie, over. Admiral, have you a black transponder snail on your left arm? Yeah, that means you can listen in. of authority. Hey, this is York speaking. Oh, it's you. You guys are so rude. Why the heck are you trying to kill me too? I went out of my way to tell you about the Stella's betrayal. You did do that, but then again, you are Vegapunk just as much as he is. And if I had any interest in the Void Sentry, why would I blab about it? It makes no sense. That's true. In any case, you've done well to survive this long. Didn't CP0 pay you a visit? And what happened to the Straw Hat Pirates? Since I'm the one calling you, I'll let you take a wild guess. You do realize I have the cipher under my control, right? The fact that I survived the night shouldn't come as a shock. Anyway, what's with this fleet you've got buzzing around the island? Are you trying to wage war on little old me? As a matter of fact, York, we've had a change of heart on the matter. Am I right in thinking that you are capable of replacing the other mother flame alone? Okay, so that's kind of confirming that the mother flame was created by Vegapunk, and Vegapunk and it's a one-time use. I think that was the issue with it. It's a one-time use, and that's why there was a little bit more pushback when Emu was like, oh, like, fire up the mother flame, like, I'm getting him. Like they were like, we can use the mother flame, but like, don't you think we should wait for a better situation or whatever? But that's great information, and the information we're getting in this chapter is ridiculous right now. All right. Oh well, you look at that. So you do whatever something something for me. So you do want something from me. I'm glad I sent it. Indeed, this is a special request we're acting on. A request from whom? Either way, if that's what you want, the power station I need to make it is here. Okay, so pretty much York is trying to cut a deal, saying like, yeah, if you need me to remake that, everything I need is here to remake it, and I can do it for you. So kanji can be read as fusion reactor. Okay, power station. So power station or fusion reactor, which fusion reactor makes more sense of the type of weapon it is. Kind of like a nuke. It would be, I think, like, in our terms, it would be considered a nuclear weapon. Just promise you won't lay a finger on me or my lovely laboratory. Very well. Also, I still want to be a celestial dragon. That can be arranged. Then you've got a deal. There's just one other thing I need you to do first. Save me. Straw Hat Luffy is here and he's going to kill me. What? What the hell? Please crush them. Please crush these psychos. I see everything finally coming into focus. I don't really get it, but we can just use her as a human shield to get away, right? Does that mean we're under siege? So that's how it is. The grand conspiracy has been foiled, and the crew's all together. that's it. Break next week. This is nuts. This chapter is this is actually a really good chapter. Let's go over some things. York is actually oh gosh, wow. Wait, where's Robin? Where's Robin? Okay, alright, so I saw a tweet earlier saying, where's Robin? So, like, I thought it was just a joke, but yeah, where is Robin? Wow. Okay, so we completely got control over the situation now. We know how many fleets are outside. The Straw Hats are aware of everything. Wait, is that Jewelry Bonnie? So Jewelry Bonnie is done with her memory quest, and Robin is either behind Zoro, sitting next to Jinbei, or she is out patrolling something. My man Usopp, that's alright. Now let's go over something very important. They brought 9 vice admirals. Now, we've seen pretty much the top row before. I'm pretty sure we've seen this guy before, and I'm thinking these 4 right here are new. Now it seems like Jewelry Bonnie's gonna have to fight somebody. Stutzy's gonna have to fight somebody. So like, let's break down who's gonna be fighting who. Luffy's fighting Kizaru if it comes down to it. Tomorrow might have to fight somebody. Fodder's fodder. You know, we're not worried about the other 29,990 or 88. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna get knocked down some sort of way. So unless Sanji takes Kizaru, right? Luffy takes the head honcho. You know, the God Warrior. I could see him, because he was talking directly to Jay Garcia. He could probably be like a borderline admiral status, and that's the only reason he can like actually like he's the highest ranking vice admiral. Like, if there's an admiral spot in line, he's probably like number 1 contender, number 2 contender at becoming the next admiral. So just for him to be able to report to him like that, like to give him the lowdown, you know what I mean? Because obviously Kizaru's not gonna do it. Kizaru's like, all right, like, I gotta be in tune to what's going on. So I think that's that. I think so. I think he might be like almost at admiral status, just because of like people say like, you know, the Navy is based off of like different various military forces that we've had, and you know, Oda puts a little twist on it, but he also has people who stay in positions like Vice Admiral Carp. You know what I mean? He is an admiral in all sense of the strengths, because the Navy been wanted to move him up and he said no. So it's one of those situations where it's like it could be the same situation with him, or it's just, you know what I mean, he just got outvoted a couple times or something like that. But so I think that, you know, because and also I think I've seen him with a sword as well, so it would make sense for him to fight him. Or since Kizaru technically has the light sword, he could fight Zoro, and Zoro could Sanji could fight him. I could see Jory Bonnie fighting either him or her, like the older lady. And then Usopp always fights the scariest looking person, so he'll probably fight the dude with the oars looking face, the oars teeth and everything. You know what I mean? It's for some reason I think Nami or Robin's gonna fight this handsome looking guy with the suit. Frankie's probably gonna fight the dude with the glass. Actually, not probably. This dude up here in the corner with the beard and the long flowing hair. Cause they look like more of like a manly type fight. You know what I mean? Or actually him, like, cause he has that grizzly beard look. But yeah, I can see some fights going down. But definitely, I definitely Jory Bonnie Stutzy's gonna be getting in on this, and you know what I mean. Who knows what Rob Lucci and Kaku's gonna really do, like, because you know they call the truth, and once they get this information, who knows, like, because the world government is wishy-washy. They turned on them once, they could turn on them again for even teaming up with them. So there's that. And I want to go back to, let's see, where they were showing the other seas. Like, we got the mayor, we got these islands that are really going underwater because of the rising sea level. And like the seas are rising 1 kilometer. Like 1 kilometer is a lot. Like, it's really a lot. So yeah, you see people running scared, like. Now let's go back to Fuchsia Village, where Luffy went up, and everybody's reaction. Now, whose baby is this? Whose baby is this? Big bro Luffy? But anyways, it's just a good feeling to go back to Fuchsia Village and to see how proud of everybody of, like, Luffy, how proud of Luffy they are. Like, it's just warming, because you see, like, Luffy has a very big family that people love him and care about the fact that he actually is following his dreams. So it's a really good feeling for that. And that's really all I really have to say about my thoughts on this chapter. And we're gonna just jump into actually going to take a second off of the face, off the cams real quick. I'm still gonna talk to you guys, but I'm just gonna set up the Loki trailer. Get my headphones on. But yeah, this chapter was amazing. I just hate the fact that there's a break next week, and but just, I kind of like these breaks right now because I feel like the writing is so much better right now with these breaks. And
here's a problem with
Hobie? Hello?
okay, almost got everything set up. But like I was saying, I really like the writing, how fluent and good the writing has been since all these breaks in his eye surgery, and you know what I mean. The One Piece is really, we're really getting a grasp on the world now, and the fact that we've seen so many islands and seen so many things, that the world of One Piece has just gotten to be such an amazing place to be. And I really commend everybody who takes the time to read and appreciate the series as much as I do, and as much as many other creators and people out there do, because this series is just, every time you think something, every time you want something new or something to change or something different, or you're tired of, even when you're in an arc you don't like, once you finish that arc and the next arc starts, you start appreciating the arc you didn't like it a little bit more. And then as the story goes on, you start appreciating those arcs that you feel like you had to muscle through even more and more. And it's just a series that, in the long run, it may be a long series, but you appreciate the time you spent reading it, and all you want to do is go back. You want to go back to the first day you read it, to the first day you watched it, however you consumed it. And that's why I love One Piece, honestly, guys, and I hope you guys love it too. But let's turn this face cam and everything back on, and we can do this Loki trailer. Now I can't wait, because this is technically a reset universe kind of thing.
We have a little bit of a situation we wanted to run by you.
Tobias, wow! Great to see you again.
That's what's been happening.
Wow. I'm slipping.
Time slip. That's crazy.
You know that?
Yeah.
You've seen that?
Yeah.
Can you fix that?
No. It's impossible to time slip in the TVA.
I know, but we just saw it happen.
Yeah.
It's impossible to time slip in the TVA. So he's not only displaced, he's lost, I think. I think that's what that means. So if you're displaced and lost in time, that means, like, it's probably because his molecules doesn't know where to be. But technically, because he's Loki, he's everything everywhere's all at once.
through time, between the past and the present. Hello? What I saw was true. There's nothing to stand between this world and utter destruction.
Only one way to find out. Little good old-fashioned legwork. A slow, deliberate, cerebral approach. It's really good pie.
I ain't even gonna lie, that pie looks really good. Now,
It's up to us to save this place.
Is this cracked?
You think?
Whatever we do,
put duct tape on a crack.
we're playing God.
We are gods. But how do you choose? Lives. Dies.
Make the hard choice.
It's it.
I love it.
It's meant where? You're the god of mischief. Always have been. Always will be.
Over the top, don't you think? I thought it was spot on.
I don't think people understand what's happening. Okay. Sometimes like right here,
And utter destruction.
Cain the Conqueror. So that means so I don't know if this kind of looks like another world, or he might be in the TVA, and if it's as suspected, this is the from the quantum realm. So this could confirm that the TVA is in the quantum realm, because that looks like the four-headed statue that was in the quantum realm when was it the quantum realm? No, I don't think it was the quantum realm, but it could still be in the quantum realm because of how time works and stuff in there. But I like how he uncovers Kang right here. It seems like this is going to be a very action-packed season. The fact that their relationship is going to be like a whole new relationship between them two. And like the first season, it was perfect, their dynamic was perfect, but this is going to be like technically a whole totally different version of his character. So I can't wait to see what happens between them. But this is very, very interesting of a trailer, because this is going to have to do with a lot of time and time gaps and just time related stuff, and it's going to be very interesting to see in the long run. I'm sorry, I'm looking around and stuff, but it's just getting brighter out, and I just, it's just early in the morning. So but this is very, very crazy. And see, this is why this reminds me of the quantum realm. It could be an area in the quantum realm. But it still hasn't been confirmed to my knowledge. But that's the Loki trailer. Let's see. What's going on with One Piece? I'm going to turn off my camera now for a little bit. We're gonna watch a couple One Piece videos and probably some theories like usual. This video will spoil the end. Oh, it's from Grand Line Review. Okay, I haven't watched one of his videos in a while. Let's see what he's talking about.
You feel the pace?
Where did you go?
I flew into orbit? I think I cut a bus in half?
This video will spoil the end of One Piece. Extra Otis game plan has been revealed, and it's set up to quite literally turn.
It's crazy how him and O'Hara are over 1,000, over 1 million subs. Congratulations, man. You guys deserve it.
Except we've already seen it. The first words in the series, which were Roger's last words, told us exactly where it was, and the final key to everything lies in the most unlikely of birds. I'm not kidding, the very fact that South birds exist as well as North, East, and West birds has completely given away the game. This is the conclusion that was drawn up by a prominent Japanese One Piece channel called Drop the Pizza. There will be a link to their video in the description. It actually has English subtitles, and it is well worth watching. But if you've not heard this before, I legitimately believe that this is the best One Piece theory, period. And I'm someone who really doesn't like theories. I think a lot of them tend to be far-fetched, tunnel vision guided examinations of hyper-specific yet somehow also hyper-vague factors to form a conclusion that almost never comes to fruition. But this theory is a completely different beast, and it can be summarized in 2 words: pole shift. Now unfortunately, without the rest of this video, those words are, well, they're meaningless, but those 2 words put in quite a lot of work. They explain how the One Piece world formed, where Laugh Tale is, why Roger was too early, and also why everything on the island was so uncontrollably hilarious. So as you may have guessed by now, a pole shift is an obscure global geographical phenomenon, and if there's anything we know about a certain Eiichiro Oda, it's that he loves the thing it is that I just said. Oda quite commonly inserts both real world and hypothetical phenomena into the world of One Piece, with stuff like the warm eddy that Jewelry Bonnie got caught in, the underwater currents on the way to Fishman Island, the knock-up stream, which is just like a super geyser, and in particular, Oda pays very special attention to magnetic forces. These forces have guided us throughout the entire series through log poses and eternal poses, because magnets are of the utmost importance, usually. And there is one massive phenomena that Eiichiro Oda has yet to take advantage of. One that would, quite literally, change the world, and that is the pole shift. This concept isn't new or even fictional. In fact, over the course of Earth's history, a magnetic pole shift has occurred on at least 183 occasions, which effectively swaps the North and South poles, resulting in all sorts of crazy effects. That's not exactly what Drop the Pizza are proposing though. In fact, what they're suggesting is significantly more drastic and nigh on apocalyptic. Their pole shift would see the axis of the One Piece planet shift by a full 90 degrees, which would also completely reshape the world as we know it. And also, they suggest that a pole shift occurred during the Void Century, which is how we've ended up with the insane world we have today, which at first I thought was a very radical and perhaps a bit too out there kind of idea, but this theory, it ain't messing around. What seemed to me like an obscure phenomena is actually quite commonly explored in sci-fi series and also anime in particular, such as Neon Genesis Evangelion, where Second Impact shifted Earth's axis, but more importantly in Hayao Miyazaki's Future Boy Conan, a 1978 television series that takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where magnetic weapons have literally torn continents apart, resulting in a pole shift effect. Hayao Miyazaki is important because Eiichiro Oda cites him as a big influence across his career. In One Piece Grand Blue Data File, Oda names Miyazaki as one of his favorite directors, alongside Quentin Tarantino, Tim Burton, and surprisingly, Baz Luhrmann. So I guess Eiichiro Oda is a pretty big Moulin Rouge fan. With Miyazaki in particular, his work has been referenced all throughout One Piece. However, Oda has yet to take advantage of Miyazaki's most relevant to the One Piece world idea. And at this point, you might be going, look, it's just a wacky story about comic book pirates, bruh. It ain't that deep. Well, actually, it is that deep, which I say purposely to foreshadow a future part of this video. In One Piece Magazine Volume 9, a sketch of the world map was published. A sketch which was
Sorry if I hear that alarm.
Reached Logtown in preparation
Somebody upstairs.
The wider world, which I want to linger on for a second because this was a big breakthrough moment. Because we have never received an official map of the One Piece world. I mean, outside of stuff like this, which marks the vague shape of the world in a kind of helpful but still completely devoid of any useful detail kind of way, but every actual map we have with locations and such such is fan-made, with the exception of this East Blue map drawn for the Logtown novel. But it's hard to know how canonically we should be taking that. Although I will note that in the Calm Belt there is apparently someone drowning and making the peace sign, which is quite an optimistic way to die, and good on them, I guess. But Oda's map sketch is the closest thing we have to an official world map, and it comes equipped with quite a few curiosities. Firstly, this map contains a location called Corkwood, which is apparently a 10-kilometer high cliff near Reverse Mountain, which means that the
Meet Kiana, Shiori, and Karthik. Just a few merchants from around the globe who have switched to
the peak of this cliff would be roughly as high as Sky Islands, but it has yet to be seen or even mentioned in the actual series. Another puzzling feature is a location known as King's House, which we see plonked right at the end of the first half of the Grand Line, and it's speculated that this was the original name for Marineford. Oh, and also Oda spells Grand Line as Gland Line, which is fun, and I imagine this is the alternate reality where Zolo lives. This map is extremely enlightening though, especially in regard to the 4 blue seas. Oda has created quite a vivid picture of it. There's also a compass marking north, east, south, and the other direction, but at the top here is the most important part, where Oda has drawn the planet itself and even marked out its rotational axis. What kind of madman world builds to this degree? Remember that this was made when Logtown was being published, so for whatever reason the specific axial rotation of the planet is important to Oda, and the whatever reason is this one, because if a pole shift were to occur and the planet unceremoniously fell 90 degrees onto its side, or I guess now fall onto its up, then what was the equator, which is currently the Grand Line, would become the red line, which is important because Japanese. In Japanese, the equator is called the Sekido, which quite literally means red road. Also very interesting because we have red road poneglyphs as well, thus linguistically implying that the red line was once the equator of the One Piece world. Oh, and there's also a potential clue in Oda's hand-drawn map as well. It contains a piece of text that can only properly be read when the map itself is turned 90 degrees left. The text simply says East Blue with an arrow pointing just above North Blue. But unless Oda is just being a bit of a weirdo, it shows that he was looking at this map from its pole-shifted perspective and jotted down this note at that point. To catch us up, the idea is that the One Piece planet once looked like this, and then it shifted to this. And now the idea is that we're going to shift it back to what it was, which is this, which was that, and is now this? It's this. Which means that the Grand Line and the Calm Belt, as we know them, would cease to exist. That's an explanation the actual video goes over in some painfully scientific detail of like water movements and such, but all you really need to know is that right now on its current axis, the greatest concentration of water is in the middle of the planet, being the Grand Line and the New World. If a pole shift occurs, then a whole ton of that water is redistributed elsewhere, and we actually have evidence that this may have happened before. The oldest known object in the One Piece world is the Tree of Knowledge on Ohara, or I guess I should say was the Tree of Knowledge. It's mostly not there anymore, but it was at least 5,000 years old, and had a very curious indentation at the base, almost marking where the water level on Ohara used to sit. And Ohara is of course in West Blue, which on the planet's current rotational axis would have a lower water level. Hence why you can do stuff like walk around on the island, study on the island, and in the case of certain Marines, commit genocide on the island. For a Grand Line based example, Impel Down seems to hit the mark pretty well, because it would have been nigh on impossible to build this structure underwater. However, if it was built during the previous pole shifts, then it simply would have been submerged. You could even argue that the walls around Wano may have been built to protect it specifically against rising water. Although, to be fair, it had the same general result in the end by turning Wano into a big old rain bucket, but even that may have been intentional because Wano and I suppose Pluton were preserved relatively well because they weren't drowned in salt water. But even then, I wasn't convinced until I saw this next piece of evidence. And this is where the glorious Southbird comes into things. As with most completely wild, insane One Piece theories, this all comes back to Jaya, and the revelation that when you put the maps of Skypiea and Jaya together, they make a big old skull. But did you see it? Did you see the thing that happened here? Because this blew my absolutely tiny mind brain. The skull is only upright when the maps of both Jaya and Skypiea are rotated left by 90 degrees. If this was still one island in our current climate, the skull would be on its side. However, fictional evidence suggests that the correct orientation of the skull is upright. On Jaya, there is a location called South Grave, a forest where we find all of the delightsome South south birds. However, South Grave on the Jaya map is actually east, and it only becomes south when you put the Skull Island together again and rotate it left by 90 degrees. And it's not just named south because that's where we find south birds. This forest is actually home to north, south, east, and west birds, all of which are tuned to the current directional system because they're subject to magnetic forces. Now, I will say that a phenomena like this cannot occur suddenly, because if it did, then it would rip the world apart, and that's just not very nice. But something like this could happen gradually over time, which is what gradually means. And Drop the Pizza made an intriguing point about how the planetary rotation of the One Piece world seems to be very slow. For example, days in One Piece seem to be significantly longer than how we experience days in not One Piece, such as that day when Luffy left Dawn Island, fought Alvida, recruited Zoro, and fought Buggy, all again allegedly on the same day. That is a very busy day. Luffy there putting even Eiichiro Oda's work schedule to shame. To counter this, Oda has repeatedly emphasized that the One Piece world operates on a 24-hour system. We even know the details of when the Straw Hats sleep and wake up, but to counter the counter, their hours could just be longer than ours. Still 24 of them, but maybe their 24 is the equivalent of our 36 or even 48, because the time system is based on rotation. And if the One Piece world has a slower rotation, then days are going to naturally be longer. So
that all makes sense.
Set sail on May 5th, and the Battle of Marineford took place in early July. So the vast majority of pre-time.
But how does this make?
Over the course of roughly 2
How does this
months.
tell us how it ends?
2 months in the history of any civilization.
How's it gonna mess up the
Puts
end?
things into perspective, like when Luffy asked Gyatz to hold off Doflamingo for 10 minutes, and then it took us about 2 months of real-world time for that 10 minutes to be published. So perhaps that was just a taste of how long 10 minutes in the One Piece world actually is. But here's the part where we get to the big revelation. A pole shift would result in a reversal of sea currents. So everything going one way is now going the other way, which would mean that the journey through the Grand Line is reversed.
I need to get in touch with his editor. His editor is amazing.
White clothing in 2018. I actually used ink file.
Reverse Mountain is now the endpoint, which makes some sense. Lodestar Island is sort of like a tutorial island, given that it says, hey, during your journey you should look out for these things, which I imagine is very unhelpful to discover right at the end of the game. But also Drop the Pizza posit that Lodestar Island can also be read as Road Start Island, which would not at all surprise me given that Raftel also became Laftel. Lodestar Island, by the way, isn't a translation. The island's name is actually written in English via katakana. And look, no, Roadstar wouldn't be the perfect English, but One Piece rarely is. Like, say, Gland Line from earlier, and of course the disaster that is Levely, which is absolutely supposed to be Reverie. And in before people tell me Reverie is a French word, I'm well aware, but it's also an English word, just like all French words, because that's what English is. We stole your language, now deal with it. But this could be why Crocus chose to remain at
You stole your language, now deal with it.
Spot to retire and raise suicidal whales. He's actually waiting at the true endpoint of the Grand Line, and he's waiting for somebody to actually figure that out and come back. And this is where things get funny in a very haha sort of way, because what is beyond Reverse Mountain? Well, lots of things, but most importantly, Logtown, the town of beginnings and endings. Currently, it serves as a beginning, but pre-pole shift, Logtown would have been the ending. And many people forget that Logtown isn't the name of an actual island. Logtown, as the name suggests, is a town, and it's actually located on the Pole Star Islands, which means that now at both the beginning and the end of the Grand Line, we have islands named after stars, and also one named after a pole. But both of them are located pretty much right next to each other, just with this rather annoying red line plonked between them. And the suggestion made is that Lodestar and Polestar are actually one island. But no one has realized that yet because most of the island was submerged during the pole shift. And also because nobody except for Roger's crew have made it to Lodestar Island to put the pieces together. Two pieces that come together to form a one piece. Again, in our current world, Logtown is where the journey begins. But in the Void Century, prior to the pole shift, Logtown is where the journey ends. So just imagine if, say, a certain Goldie Roger sailed all throughout the world to find this island, only to discover that the place he was looking for all along was the very island he was born on. Pretty funny, right? Well, worthy of a hearty laugh, haha. And the reason why Roger was too early is because nothing could be done until the next pole shift. And he basically says as much in his final words. だくれてやるぜ探してみろこの世のすべてをそこに置いてきた And I want to pay specific attention to the word soko. Soko basically means there, but also not just there, a very implied there that is implied to be close to the listener. So with that in mind, a very super accurate translation of Roger's last words would be, my treasure, if you want it, you can have it. Search for it. I left everything right there. As in right there. I, Goldie Roger, am looking at it right now as I'm saying these words, it's right there. And then he gets killed. Bleh. And from there was the start of so many journeys to find the One Piece. Each and every one of them scouring the entire world and not a single one realizing that it was right there where they began. To me, that would be the most hilarious outcome. The idea that on the very first page of One Piece, this one right here, the entire mystery of the series was already revealed. We were already at the end point, thus bringing One Piece full circle at both the town of beginnings and ending.
Okay, so that kind of makes sense. That makes too much sense. I don't know if I believe it or not, but that makes a lot of sense. Let's see. Okay, the greatest devil fruit theory. Alright.
Dishwashers use 80% less water than hand wash and save $130 on utilities. Cascade.
I picked the software engineering program because they pay very well. It's a space industry. The boot camp allows.
Hidden Islands intro is so fire.
A little under a year ago, I made a theory taking a crack at one of the longest running and core mysteries in One Piece, devil fruits. At the time, we came to a lot of various conclusions about how they work and how they were made, some that I'm going to restate today and some that I'm going to change, but it's been over the course of this past month that my theory on devil fruits has grown to massive proportions, to the point where I won't even be able to fit everything into this video. I'm going to warn you right now, this one you gotta buckle in for. We're going to be going very in-depth with this theory, but once the details are on the table, I think that we may have my personal favorite theory in One Piece. I believe in this one really, really strongly. What if I told you that the red line once might have been a different color, that it once went by another name? What if I told you that devil fruits are a technology originally created there by a race of botanical scientists, or that Vegapunk has already figured out some part of this history, that the mechanics behind devil fruits might reveal to us how Momo's fruit was made, and more importantly, that Bartholomew Kuma is not actually dead? Now that we've had a chance to meet Dr. Vegapunk, my doubts about Kuma's death have grown considerably, and so has my confidence in certain aspects of my last theories, such as Haki and light having a connection. And the reasoning for me lies in the creation and content of devil fruits, something that the good doctor has had a major hand in researching. Egghead is a natural follow-up from Punk Hazard, which is also a follow-up off of Thriller Bark. It's no coincidence then that the subject matter of Kuma's status, Vegapunk's lab, and Zone devil fruits are all coming to the front lines at the same time. time. See, I've thought a lot about what fruits Vegapunk's research actually bore, both figuratively and literally, and I've come to the conclusion that although Momo's devil fruit is deemed a failure, in some respect, Vegapunk has managed to crack the code on devil fruits. It's why Vegapunk was credited with placing devil fruit powers inside objects. It's the only way he was able to pull that off, and it was this new process that I believe saved Kuma well before we even realized. We're going to try and answer a few important and familiar questions today. What are devil fruits? How and why were they made? And who made them? This is going to take our conversation 800 years into the past, but answering these questions should tell us what Vegapunk managed to figure out in the present. We're going to attempt to pinpoint the origin of devil fruits, and I also want to try painting a picture of the civilization that created them. Maybe they can tell us if Kuma is still alive. Now, if you've seen my previous devil fruit theory, I apologize, because there's going to be some overlap here. However, it's really important to go over this stuff first, especially taking into account all the new information we have about Luffy's devil fruit and sun god Nika. But before we do that, if you enjoyed the video today, please help me out with a like and subscribe to keep the music alive. With that out of the way, let's start from the beginning. Where do devil fruits come from originally? A year ago, I theorized that devil fruits come from the sunlight tree Eve, and I'm sticking to my guns on this point in particular. Why? Well, it's likely the largest tree in the world, extending all the way down from Fishman Island to the top of the Red Line. It pulls its sunlight from the top of the world and not only absorbs it, but courses light through its body down to its roots, which take in water from the deepest part of the ocean. Water and light being the two most important ingredients for a plant to grow. If the top fruit-bearing part of the tree is in Marijoa, it would also explain why nobody knows about it, since everything up there is generally kept top secret. Its very namesake comes from the biblical story of Adam and Eve. Only female trees bear fruit, and the tree in question gets its name, Eve, from the first woman. Looking at the biblical source, Eve is also the first person to eat the forbidden fruit after being convinced to by the devil, hence the inspiration behind devil fruits. Could they have grown elsewhere? Sure, but if I had to pin down one spot in the One Piece world, the Sunlight Tree Eve is the most obvious choice. If we can agree on this at least, then the next question is, who created them? I've said it before, but I believe Lunarians created devil fruits. Devil fruits must predate the world government, and must not be from a prominent race in the world of One Piece that could speak to their origins, as no one in the modern day world seems to have a perfect understanding of how they're made or how they work. Lunarians, like devil fruits, predate the world government and are also conveniently not currently around to speak on this missing bit of historical information. Lunarians lived on top of the Red Line first, the supposed location of the Eve tree. They also lived as far away from the ocean as physically possible in the One Piece world, and they are known for their fire-related abilities, which probably don't do well in water. Lo and behold, a devil fruit's single greatest weakness is likewise the sea. Finally, they were known as gods and have heavy referential connections with Lucifer, also known as the devil, another biblical character. He's often described as a former angel of the highest rank, known as a seraphim, who is later cast down from heaven. He is commonly depicted with black wings and resides in a fiery hell, and it is this same devil who tempts Eve to eat the forbidden fruit in the first place. All thematic and visual associations we can easily make with the Lunarian race, so if there's anyone responsible for the creation of devil fruits, then these guys fit the bill. Does this mean that Oda is saying that the devil is good or something? No, I think this is a classic case of don't judge a book by its cover. They're the exact opposite of the celestial dragons. The world nobles are supposed to be the most holy and godlike of people. They are supposed to be worshipped and held in high regard, and yet they are some of the most ugly, cruel, ungodly abominations in the entire story. The Lunarians, conversely, despite possessing the outward appearance of devils and likely being misrepresented as monsters, are actually not the real villains. It's a twist on the classic good versus evil formula, where in this case the gods are evil and the enemies of the gods are the heroes. In light of some recent information regarding Gear 5, I think it's even more likely now that Nika was one of these Lunarians and thus was largely responsible for the making of devil fruits. Nika and the Lunarians were both known as gods, had white hair, their bodies generate fire, they're highly resilient, have heavy associations with the moon, and were introduced in the very same arc. It also helps that Oda recently chose to draw a young version of King holding a familiar-looking spear. Nika, being such an important figure in the Void Century, was probably the leader of the Lunarians, and a big reason I think so is the lack of wings in Luffy's Nika transformation. Most, if not all, the sky races originated on the moon, if this cover story is anything to go by. Lunarians especially, since their name literally means moon people. If the Lunarians had a similar societal structure to the other people of the sky, then it's possible they also referred to their leader as a god, or for our purposes here, a sun god. In the biblical source material, it helps to know that God is not depicted with wings, only his angels are. Oda has recognized this because the gods of other sky races such as Enel and Gonfall likewise did not possess wings. Nika may lack them for similar reasons. So, building off this concept that Nika and the Lunarians did create devil fruits, the greater question is, why? Why make devil fruits? A big issue that has left people guessing stems from the fact that devil fruits by nature are a very magical element of
Gonfall, we didn't see him have his wings because he had the armor on. Yeah, you could argue that if he had wings that he would probably make holes for the armor to put his wings through, but he could as easily kept them under the armor. You know what I mean? I know we did see him with like bandaged up or whatever, but I don't remember seeing his back, so I can't really confirm or deny.
One Piece world, but oftentimes we only consider things magical because we don't fully understand them. If we try and reframe devil fruits as a form of technology or a tool that was utilized by the Lunarians, it may help us narrow down the reasons.
Excuse me.
Leave limitations at the door and step into
Damn,
your
hidden.
studio.
We don't know a lot about this lost Lunarian civilization, but I think we have enough information to make some inferences. We know for certain that there's a connection between the winged sky races, and while we don't know a lot about this specific type, we do know a lot about the others. The others that we've seen are structured around the worship of deities, the Skypians and their god, and the Shandians with their various gods, in which the sun god is directly referenced. But how does this tell us the reason devil fruits were made? Well, if we continue these parallels, Skypians, another winged race, were known for having a unique technology not present anywhere else in the world below. Empty, spiral-shaped shells known as dials, used for the storage of energy and matter. These can only be found in the sky, and thus are a rare and valuable technology to the people of the blue sea below. But for Skypians, dials are just a daily matter-of-fact thing. They only got these dial shells because they washed up on their shores from the White Sea, but Lunarians, by contrast, did not live in the sky. They lived on top of the Red Line. There were no shores there, no clouds to swim in, no shells, and no dials. So they didn't have this spectacular technology that the Sky People did. Lunarians had to rely on different technology than the others, and luckily they were in possession of something else, something that was inversely incredibly rare and valuable to the people of the sky. Verth. And not just some Verth, they lived on top of a whole wall of it. Using all these various details, along with some external connections, I'm going to try and prove to you that Lunarian society was largely built around the science of botany, or the study of plants. Let's start with the simplest reason. These guys established their kingdom on top of a massive wall of Verth. What is Verth, or dirt, good for? What else besides growing plants? It's one of the major plot elements of Skypiea, and if we take a look at the Nolan flashback, we'll find a lot of emphasis placed on botany. Nolan himself was a botanist, and the Shandians considered certain trees to be sacred. But this emphasis on the importance of plants and nature does not stop here. It's commonly thought that Skypiea is a microcosm for the story of One Piece at large, but there's another arc that commonly gets this microcosm label. Dressrosa, which also features a unique and ancient race of people with obvious connections to botany. The Tontada, who live on Greenbit, also, interestingly enough, have a direct connection back to Mont Blanc, Noland. And in both Noland-related societies, they lived in villages in the jungle, essentially, and faced subjugation from another outside force. There's a constant connection in One Piece between the science of plants, the pursuit of truth, and the subsequent suppression of knowledge by a greater power. And there's a notable emphasis placed on the beauty and importance of nature, and trees in particular, throughout the story. Whether it's Luffy promising to show Shirahoshi a real forest one day, or massive civilization spanning tree number 135 on Zou. The scholars of Ohara, for example, also based all their research that while the Skypians' technology is impressive and while the Shandians have an immense hoard of gold, the thing that they both regard as most valuable is Earth, purely because of its capacity for growing things, and all the various civilizations that tie back to the Void Century or possess societal advances tend to place a heavy importance on trees. The Skypians all serpent-like in shape. And yet again, if we look at our foreshadowy friends over in Shandora, we'll find that they also worship a massive snake. In the real world, throughout various civilizations, religions, and cultures, snakes were worshipped as divine or godlike creatures, most commonly being associated with two...
That's because snakes are damn near immortal.
And you guessed it, the sun. Want an example? Well, look at the ancient Egyptians. The pharaohs of ancient Egypt were thought to be sons of Ra, the sun god of Egypt. And when you look at the crowns that the pharaohs wore, it wouldn't be uncommon to see a snake or a cobra featured prominently on the front of the crown. Cobras were the symbol of royalty there because of their associations with the sun god. Man, this is directly referenced in One Piece. The One Piece version of Egypt, Alabasta, is ruled over by King Cobra. Nefertari was the name of a real Egyptian queen, so as far as I can tell, Oda knows exactly what he's doing here. Here's another example. Do you recognize this symbol? The rod of Asclepius is the symbol of medicine used worldwide, and it comes from Greek mythology. This rod was gifted to Asclepius, the god of medicine, by his father Apollo, the Greek god of the sun. So not only is the serpent here in a completely different mythology being symbolically associated with the sun, but with herbs and medicines as well. Now, I know some of you are grumbling out there like, oh, I don't know, I don't think Oda knows all this, but, the important takeaway here is that the association between snakes and plants and medicines and so on is a common thing in human history, and as far as medicine goes, its symbology is known worldwide. Also worth pointing out is the version used in the United States possesses two snakes as well as a pair of wings. For these reasons, I think that much like how a wolf is the guardian spirit of Wano and a falcon is the guardian spirit of Alabasta, a serpent may have been the guardian spirit of the ancient kingdom. People have compared Drum Island with its 20 doctors to the ancient kingdom and the 20 kings. If what I'm saying is true about Nika's kingdom of Lunarians being botanists or doctors, why the hell not, represented by the serpent, then the symbology fits together so perfectly. What about how this literal snake woman wants to marry our modern day Joy Boy? What about the Nika fruit having a transformation called Snake Man? King, the one Lunarian we met in the entire story so far, answers to no one but Kaido, whose devil fruit turns him into a big-ass snake. What about how the Red Line itself, the Lunarian homeland, is referred to by giants as the Great Serpent soaked in blood? The list can go on and on. The point of all this is that the symbolism between serpents, plants, and sun gods are not only present throughout our world, but in the world of One Piece itself. They have heavy associations with Nika and the Lunarians by extension. These connections are so abundant that I can't help but think it's intentional to some degree. Maybe this is still kind of a stretch for you, and that's okay. But if you believe that the Eve tree can be the devil fruit tree, then you have to acknowledge that the biblical connections are being intentionally made by Oda. So let me ask you, we know that, at least visually, Lunarians and Seraphims take some inspiration from the story of the real-life devil, and the devil was a major character in the Garden of Eden story, taking the form of a serpent. If their society was built around this tree, inspired by the story of Adam and Eve, does that not make their kingdom the Garden of Eden? Does it not make the people who lived in the garden, those who made the devil's fruit, the serpent?
Incorporating your business can be a daunting task, but it doesn't have to be. What if I told you you could experience a stress-free process?
So, pretty much, obviously, everybody, if you're into One Piece, you know that Oda takes a lot of biblical things and puts it into One Piece, and that's why there's the Buddha devil fruit to show like there's God. You know, people believe in certain religions. Like, I believe, like, especially with Vegapunk's explanation of the fruit, it really shows that like there were a group of people who did believe in Buddha at one point in One Piece. So that's why the Buddha devil fruit actually exists. So that's why, like, I heard a lot of people saying, like, where did he come up with Sun God Nika? Like, because a lot of the references he did was for actual deities in our world, deities that we have in our world. So I think people got confused when it's like, no, like, he created his own deity for this fantasy world that he created. Like, he just wanted to show inspirations from outside to foreshadow what he was doing. So I do like where he's going with the Void Century would be considered the Garden of Eden, and where, you know, because that's where the devil fruits would have originally come from.
I spent quite a lot of time thinking about this idea, a civilization of angels centered around botany who lived on top of the Red Line. And then it hit me. Why is it the Red Line? What if the Red Line was, a long time ago, actually the Green Line? What if it was a massive continent stretching around most of the world, covered in lush greenery, fruits, flowers, and life of all kinds, forests and jungles, farms and orchards,
and that kind of goes back into the Grand Line video we just watched, where he explained a Japanese YouTuber's video where they say where the One Piece world shifted its axis, and that you know, when it shifts, it's supposed to shift back in a certain amount of time, and that could have caused like the change of the greenery and, you know, made it hotter or whatever.
The Lunarians likely
But
came
yeah.
along with the other sky races down to the Earth because they ran out of resources on the moon. And while the others landed in the clouds on their balloons or whatever, the Lunarians might have landed in the best spot, a mountain of Verth. And so they began to cultivate the land. Their ability to use botany pushed them far beyond the other civilizations in the One Piece world. Instead of wasting time on human sacrifices to appease the gods, the Lunarians became the gods. Just like Nolan didn't rely on their snake as a god, but regarded it as an equal part of nature. Through his help, the Shandians became their own god, their own serpent, and used the power of science to push ahead. This is why Nolan is so damn important. When he spoke of progress, of how many years of research and how many lives it took to create the modern marvels of science, he embodied the Lunarian will and demonstrated to the Shandians what progress really is. He showed them that they can accomplish great things all by themselves and push them forward into a new era. Funny symbolism going on that after they met Nolan, they were all propelled back into the sky. People always try to find where the Emerald City idea fits into One Piece. And I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but I don't think there is a literal Emerald City. But maybe the Lunarian Kingdom up on the Green Line was once an Emerald City of sorts. After all, the point of the Emerald City in the original Wizard of Oz book was that it was actually completely normal and only perceived as made of emeralds because the Wizard of Oz gave everyone green-tinted glasses. In the book, he did this because before he built the city, when he first landed in Oz with his hot air balloon, the first thing he noticed was how green and pleasant the land was. All of his magical feats were essentially just placebo effects, meant to make people find happiness on their own instead of spending their days wishing for it. In other words, the moral of the story with the Emerald City is that you have everything you need within yourself to be happy. Nolan, in this case, was the wizard for the Shandian people, and the Lunarians may have been the wizard as well, for their own era. He made them believe in themselves rather than some fictional gods. The Green Line may have been an Emerald City, not made of literal treasure, but instead of the treasures of nature. After Noland heals the village from their so-called curse, we see a shot of an empty sacrificial altar beneath the full moon. Gone are the days of human sacrifices. Onward with the future. The symbolism in this one panel speaks for itself. Noland rests in a shack while the village elder looks up at the moon. Once again, redirecting our attention there. And back outside, everyone is happy, silhouetted against the moonlight, dancing the night away. It's not simply the fact that Oda keeps bringing up these same themes and ideas in conjunction with each other, but it's moments like this where he places a clear, multi-panel emphasis on the moon that has me buying into this line of thinking. So if the red line was the green line, then what the hell happened? Why is it red now? It's confirmed that currently all the forest and plant life in Marijois is artificial, so clearly something's up with the dirt. I think it may be because the earth on the red line is currently dried out. If the soil is too dry, plants can't grow. How does soil become dry? Well, one way that happens is if it doesn't rain for a long time. One of the first cities the Straw Hats arrive at in Alabasta is called Arumalu. It was until recently known as the Green City for its abundant plant life, but after Crocodile began using dance powder, it stopped raining there and the city completely dried up. Well, one thing I've noticed about Marijois in the current timeline is that it never seems to rain up there. In fact, it never seems to be anything up there besides daytime. Almost every time Marijois has appeared, it's been broad daylight out. Maybe, here and there it's obscured by some mystery, you can't see this yet fog, but we've never seen it at night and we've never seen it rain, even when it's nighttime elsewhere in the same chapter. This wouldn't be suspect if not for Enies Lobby, which is confirmed to be stuck in daytime permanently. It's called a Never Night Island and remains sunny even during storms. It also mysteriously has a massive hole in the ocean, and considering what Eam just did to Lulusia, I think we can infer that the big ass hole and the incredibly unnatural sunlight thing are related. If the world government destroyed the Lunarians and established Marijois in their former homeland, it's possible that this same weapon was used to wipe them out. Some massive beam that vaporized the life on top of the wall and made it permanently sunny there. Thus, no more rain and no more green. The Eve tree is the only one that could have survived because its roots are long enough to reach the ocean. It doesn't need rain because it has ocean water below, but new and smaller plants are not capable of that. Thus, all the plants there now have to be artificial. Interestingly, there is some fitting symbolism that can arise from this. Green is a color often associated with peace, nature, and progress, but red is the color of blood, limitations, and mistakes. Through this act of bloodshed, progress in the world came to a halt. The Green Line became red, and later known to others like the Giants as the Great Serpent covered in blood. Doesn't this make some sense? The world nobles think their bloodline makes them superior to others, so they separated themselves from the people and now live on top of a literal, massive bloodline wrapped around the world and controlling the people within it. Sometimes I don't know if I'm reaching or Oda is just laughing at us, but either way, this gives Joy Boy plenty of reason to come and break it later, fulfilling the prophecy of Fishman Island.
Do you feel okay? Where did you go?
Blue Beetle looks fire though, I'm not gonna lie.
Hey guys, it's me. I am in post-production right now, so I apologize if the audio is a little bit different. So I finished writing this script before Chapter 1065 came out in the One Piece manga, and there were some juicy bits of information in there that I feel would be criminal not to include anywhere in this video. So we're going to quickly just go over that. More specifically in reference to the Seraphims, how they mentioned something in this chapter about them having green blood. Now, I'm not sure if Lunarians had green blood. We didn't get that indication from King when Zoro fought him and clearly injured him. But, you know, if the Lunarians or the original Lunarian society, maybe there was something with green blood related to them or how devil fruits were made or whatever, I think this just serves to support the theory that I've been building so far, as well as, you know, helps with the imagery that I was talking about of the green line becoming the red line, you know, the bloodline of those who ruled the world shifting from those with green blood to humans with red blood. And
he's just trying to enforce that green line, the green line blood line thing. That's whatever.
Now's the time where I explain what I think the recipe for a devil fruit actually is. I tried to establish earlier that Nika may have been largely responsible for their creation, but people might jump at this and say, well, I thought souls only come from living things. Well, no. She even attributes her miracle to a mysterious sun god, further adding credence to the idea that Nika is in part responsible for her devil fruit powers. What about the Three Eye Tribe? Maybe the reason they're said to be able to read the poneglyphs is because their third eye allows them to see these voices. The third eye in our world is often thought to allow people to see into the spirit world. The voice of all things are something that most people can't see or hear or interact with, and the existence of the Third Eye Tribe might solidify the concept that the barrier between worlds, between people and the voice of all things, is one of a spiritual nature, and there's a good chance those same spirits and voices were used by the Lunarians in special ways. So my hypothesis from all this is that Nika took the voice of all things and somehow placed these souls or part of them into the Eve tree, which then formed into various devil fruits. Through the light that courses through the tree, coursed all the voice of all things and created all these different various special devil fruits, animals, elements, concepts, properties, people. Using the inner voice of each, Nika made everything its own respective fruit, even himself. And when you look at how souls are depicted in One Piece, complete with that little swirl you see on devil fruits, this seems to fit. I mentioned earlier how the devil fruit tree takes inspiration from the story of Adam and Eve. One thing I didn't mention was that there are two special trees in the Garden of Eden. The one they ate from with the forbidden fruit.
What I want to know is, because he keeps saying that Nika made himself into a devil fruit. So did he have all those abilities prior to him making himself a devil fruit? Is that what you're trying to say, Hidden? Or is it just the devil fruit powers itself is just an add-on he made when he was making his own fruit? Because I think that's the only thing that's really like swaying my opinion on this theory right now.
Which can also be translated as the tree of knowledge of everything. Voice of all things, knowledge of all things, fits so far, right? However, there's another tree in the garden that I didn't talk about much in my last devil fruit video. That would be the tree of life, also known in some Jewish versions of the story as the tree of souls. The souls of everyone and everything who ever lived or will live grow on this tree, and when they die, their souls fall from the tree into a place called the Chamber of Guff. It is known as the Treasury of Souls, located in 7th Heaven. Side note, check out this vault located directly beneath Eames' Garden of Eden, featuring 7 doors. I know it's kind of a loose connection, but then again, I'm afraid to write anything off completely. It is said that the world will end when the last soul descends from the Tree of Souls, and that makes me wonder if a similar reason in One Piece might explain why Eam is checking on this vault or treasury. Will their world also end once the last devil fruit resurfaces? If Nika made the devil fruits and also made himself into a devil fruit, then logically he has to have been the last devil fruit ever to have been made. In other words, Luffy's fruit is probably the last devil fruit ever created, and it was ever since this final fruit was eaten by Luffy 800 years later that the world began to turn on its head. Maybe the Eve tree is not only the tree of knowledge, but a reference to the tree of souls as well.
That made sense. That made a lot of sense. That worked perfectly for him. I'm not gonna lie. That right there makes a lot of sense. But it still doesn't explain, like, did he have those powers?
This is where this theory will deviate from my original, because at the time of that video, we didn't know yet that the Gum Gum fruit was actually the zone fruit of Nika. But now that we know a real-life figure from the Void Century somehow exists within a devil fruit, it all but confirms that souls, voices, whatever you want to call them, are the missing piece, and that Nika had some kind of involvement. In my opinion, this all points to devil fruits being some form of ancient technology. Devil fruits can be seen as a symbol for inherited will and function based on that principle. invisible, so it's very possible that the dial technology was a parallel to devil fruits, particularly in their function, the storage of matter and energy. Just like how some dials were used to store literal voices, the Lunarians found a way to take someone or something's spiritual voice and store it inside fruits. And so we get devil fruits, inherited will given form. If you're looking for an in-depth explanation on why devil fruits might lose their functionality in the water, I'd recommend checking out my last devil fruit theory. I don't have too much more to add here, especially since I've restructured how I think the fruits were made, but a new idea that came to mind with this soul theory is the contrast between the ocean and the spirit world. Ryokugyu acknowledges that the forest is a cradle of life, but it is only secondary when compared to the ocean. The ocean is truly where all life began. It is the true cradle of life. Life starts in the sea, so maybe one reason that devil fruit users sink is because the power of life in water is too overpowering or heavy for the spirits inside. That being in water drowns out the voice of your fruit. We've seen that devil fruit users get tired once they fall into the ocean, so maybe an alternative is that the soul of their devil fruit falls asleep once they return to the sea. The ocean, while a cradle of life, can also be seen as a resting place for souls. Things like Davy Jones' locker come to mind here. So
of course,
perhaps when you're submerged in water,
it's a pirate show, so it's a pirate series, so definitely Davy Jones' locker is the number one.
Kill the devil fruit power itself, it kills the user for not being able to breathe underwater. But we've seen that if a creature can breathe, all that's happening is a part of their physical body goes into a dormant state. Maybe this is also the same reason why Pluton is said to be resting beneath a submerged Wano. When the water is removed, maybe it will stop resting. Maybe Pluton will presumably become active again and its spirit will reawaken. I think the reasoning behind this is the same reasoning behind how devil fruits and water are correlated. Or maybe I was right about the light thing last video, who knows, but let's move on. Anyway, now for the big question. If Nika was the one who created devil fruits, then how did he take the voices or souls from one thing and put them into another thing? The answer is, in my opinion, music. Is it a coincidence then that the final moments of the Rumbar Pirates were recorded and preserved inside of a tone dial? Is it unintentional that Luffy placed such a heavy importance upon recruiting a musician as far back as East Blue? Is it also just happenstance that Nika is likewise heavily associated with music and the rhythmic beating of drums? See, Brook and Big Mom don't just prove to us that souls are a real thing in One Piece. They prove to us that souls can be manipulated by music. Brook's Soul King powers come in part from his musical performances, and he states that during his 2-year training arc, he learned how to use his music to influence and rock the souls of others. Big Mom is frequently seen performing musical numbers with her homies, and it is during these sequences that she seems even more in control of their behavior. They all sing to her tune. Here's more fuel to the fire. The Shandian people held a belief dating back to the Void Century that their ancestors' souls resided in the trees of their island, and they are guided to those trees from the afterlife by the sound of the Great Bell. An outright example in the story in the first place. What makes music special? One idea that came to mind when I tried to answer this question was that music stimulates emotion, and emotions are what truly move the soul. When people say something like, "you have no soul," it's the same thing as saying you have no emotions. So made the voice of all things mingle and dance into the Eve tree, just like how the sound of the bell, the light of Shandora, guided the ancestral Shandian spirits back into their forest home.
Hard pivot to a piece of tech that I've been using actually for a while. So you might have heard of 8 Sleep. They're kind of...
All the major One Piece film releases over the last 10 years or so have in some way reflected the events of the manga. Strong World, for example, had a hard focus on old legendary pirates re-emerging and came out around the Marineford saga. Film Gold featured a mafia boss of a criminal organization working directly for Doflamingo and coincided with the Dressrosa arc. Stampede featured all the Worst Generation coming together to fight an absolute unit and revealed Black Tail's name to us at the same time as the raid on Onigashima. And we now have film Film Red, in which music, new eras, and pop concert holograms are a main feature of the film. So the question is, how are the themes of Film Red being reflected in the manga? And don't worry, keeping it spoiler free. Well, now we've just begun the Egghead Island arc. If music is actually the key to Devil Fruits and Vegapunk has been researching them all this time, then I'd like to raise the possibility that Film Red is thematically setting us up for the incoming Vegapunk arc. And if music is going to be a part of Egghead, this may tell us that Vegapunk has cracked the code and figured out the music connection. What makes me think so? Well, for starters, Vegapunk is in both name and appearance a reference to Daft Punk. What about Vegapunk Records? That caught my eye as well. Here's another one. All the Vegapunk satellites share names with craters on the moon, which leads me to think that the Vega part of Vegapunk possibly comes from the star of the same name. I promise this is connected to music. Vegapunk is known for being the brightest star in the constellation Lyra. Interesting thing about Lyra, or Lyra or whatever, it gets its namesake from an instrument, the lyre of Orpheus, which produced music, quote, said to be so great that even inanimate objects such as rocks could be charmed. Sounds kind of familiar to what we've been talking about, huh? The lyre, by the way, was said to be invented by, here comes that name again, Apollo, the Greek god of the sun. You know what else Apollo was the god of? Music. So from here, there's this train of thought that forms. Vegapunk and Frankie are very similar in a lot of ways, right? Even down to how they slap their name on every one of their inventions. One thing about Frankie that makes him stand out is his ability to play guitar. He's not the crew musician, but for a period of time in the story, Frankie's guitar playing was a thing. He is a very musically inclined man, so if Frankie plays a guitar, does Vegapunk play an instrument too? Maybe a lyre or a harp? Something along those lines? I think this can serve to explain how Vegapunk managed to charm inanimate objects and place devil fruit powers inside them. Oda confirmed in The Road to Laugh Tale Volume 4 that the special property of zone fruits having a will of their own is instrumental in Vegapunk's ability to feed them to objects. If we look back at Skypiea one last time, we'll see that Luffy roped a wild pack of wolves into dancing and partying with him right before the Nika thing happened. Animals and living things have a will of their own and are probably much more susceptible to the power of music than inanimate objects. I'm assuming that Vegapunk can't hear the voice of all things, so he can't reasonably interact with the souls of things that cannot respond back. But with zone fruits actually having a will, it's interesting because they can meet our curious scientist halfway. So what if Vegapunk realized this strange phenomenon is a pink dragon, for example, when it's supposed to be a copy of Kaido's disaster? They could turn into dragons on their own and lift entire countries out of the ocean. Probably wouldn't have abandoned his friend to become a slave to the celestial dragons, at least not the Vegapunk we currently know. So what actually happened? I think the answer, at least part of it, has been given to us already. If Vegapunk lied about his artificial fruit being a failure, then it stands to reason that he might have lied about Kuma as well. One important quality that we recently learned about Vegapunk is that he managed somehow to split himself into 6 different people. How is this possible? Even Rob Lucci, a genius in his own right, finds this concept to be insane and hard to believe. And maybe
genius,
behind it is
he's not a dummy, but genius,
It leans more towards the magical or ancient side of things. Is it possible that Vegapunk has figured out how to fracture or move souls between bodies? He's clearly capable of doing something like this, and considering Punk Hazard had a theme of body swapping as well, I wouldn't be surprised if our 6 Vegapunks are going to be very important. In fact, I believe the information we've been given on the 6 is misleading. The world government seems to believe that Vegapunk split himself into 6 people because he needed more hands on deck at Egghead Island, he needed more help in the lab, and needed to be in many places at once, but I wouldn't put it past a super genius to be outsmarting everyone else with this explanation. What if this is all just a convenient excuse? Yes, Vegapunk split himself into 6 people, but maybe it wasn't for the extra help. Maybe it was part of his devil fruit experimentation, trying to figure out how to take the soul from one living being and move it into the body of something else. Maybe he tried to figure out how Nika took himself and placed himself inside a devil fruit. So maybe Vegapunk figured out something important about that same process and managed to successfully take part of himself and place it in a completely separate automaton. If music is a major factor in this, and Vegapunk is only capable of doing this using the will of living creatures or zones of the fruit, this is all just speculation. Just theorizing as best as me with some of the Vegapunk ideas.
okay. It kind of makes sense. The whole thing, like I kept saying, is like the whole, did Joy Boy have those devil fruit powers to begin with? Like, did he have the power of rubber to begin with? That's what I need to know. But thank you guys. I'm gonna sign off. I gotta go to work soon. I hope you guys have a good daytime, night, whenever you guys are listening to this later. If you get through the full thing, appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who showed up, everybody who stopped in, everybody who's still here, and have a good